Mark Walker is the Director of Technology Policy at Cable Labs, and he focuses on broadband cybersecurity and other wireline policy issues and their intersection with new technology development. Prior to joining Cable Labs, Mark was the Deputy Chief in the Telecommunications Access Policy Division of the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. Within that organization, he also served as legal advisor to the Chief of Wireline Competition Bureau and on E-rate and rural healthcare matters. And prior to joining the FCC, he worked in private practice representing clients in telecommunications and other highly regulated industries. Mark holds a bachelor's in engineering science and mechanics from Penn State, an MBA from Lehigh University, and a JD from the University of Colorado. Everyone, let's welcome Mark Walker.
Thank you. I'm here today to discuss why IoT security is important. Not just the doom and gloom that we've heard throughout this conference and daily, but why IoT security is important for the benefits that it promises. Then I'll discuss the cable industry's security goals for IoT and how we can achieve those. But first, I want to provide a little background on Cable Labs. How many folks in the room have heard of Cable Labs or are familiar with Cable Labs? Outside the Comcast people. Okay, so very few. Cable Labs has been around for nearly 30 years and has been certifying devices and the security of devices for decades. Cable Labs is the R&D and innovation consortium for the global cable industry. We have 60 cable operator members worldwide, including well-known names like Comcast, Charter, Altice, Liberty Global, and many mid-tier and smaller cable operators as well. Our focus is in 6 areas currently. Wired network technologies like DOCSIS and fiber optics, wireless network technologies like Wi-Fi, next generation mobile networks, artificial intelligence as it impacts the potential to improve operations of networks, technology policy, strategy and innovation, and security. Not only security of network technologies, but also security more broadly in the entire internet ecosystem. With that, let's turn to IoT and what secure IoT might enable. I'm going to play a short 4-minute video that provides Cable Labs' vision of how IoT might change our lives and the lives of our loved ones.
Come on, Cookie. I don't know how you're supposed to feel at 86, but I don't think I feel like I'm 86.
Surprise!
People make my world go round. I fear isolation and being cut off. If I am alone somewhere and I had no one to talk to, no one to share anything with, I bet you I would just dry up and blow away. I call this my smart house. We got sensors in all the rooms. I swallow them. I wear them. Doc knows what's going on with me. I don't have to go to the clinic anymore. I call him up. He's not back in the horse and buggy days.
Looks like you had a pretty active week, huh?
I'm feeling it too. Hey guys, how do you like your ride? Knowing I got eyes on me gives me the confidence to keep me being who I am, doing what I want to do. Frees me up. Takes the worry away. I don't have to worry about Paige, my daughter.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, kiddo, what's up?
I'm just checking in.
Because I know she's not worried about me.
No, I'm...
She's always busy, work and kids. But she can see exactly how I'm doing.
I love you, Dad.
That she knows how I feel before I do. Cookie has become my buddy.
Time for your pill, Jim.
My wingman. Hey, Cookie, what time is that car going to be here?
2 minutes. It's cold out. Might want to bring a coat.
It's like he has a brain. Now, what are you doing, Cookie?
It's a quick
I have
procedure.
come to
Doctor said
rely on him.
no time.
I know I can trust him, and he's got my back. I lost Ellen, my wife, 10 years ago. So many good times, so many memories. Losing her was really tough. If we had had for her then what we have for me now, she would have been in a much better place. I miss her so much. Here, not too long ago, I was experiencing those dizzy spells. The doctor had provided a scan for me at home, so I didn't have to go out to the clinic or anything.
They have those scans for that patient. Take a look.
And that scan revealed that I had an aneurysm. I saw this specialist, a surgeon, and she explained to me, we wouldn't have a messy operation. They inject these nanobots, and they go into your system.
Basically, we're going to send in an army of nanobots of the aneurysm.
And they find where the aneurysm is, and
Fixing it.
they seal it off. I get a kick out of thinking that I have a whole bunch of nanobots swimming around up here in my brain, doing what they're supposed to do. I wasn't in a hospital. I was back home.
Oh dear.
I was back home where I want to be, where I belong. The help that I have allows me to stay here in my home. Who is that? Do you remember? The guy in the back.
Who is that?
Have my friends here,
That's Pete.
my family, and I don't want to give that up. I don't want to be in a nursing home. The quickest way to lose your independence is to go where you don't have any independence. That's the truth.
Every time I watch that video, it nearly brings me to tears. I think about my grandparents and my parents and eventually myself as I age. How do I retain my freedom and my independence, and how technology can change that? But this vision is not possible without secure IoT. So as much as we talk about the doom and gloom, it's important to think about how this technology can change our world for the better. We're all too familiar with the nearly daily cyber attack headlines. Insecure IoT devices are the newest and latest building blocks for botnets, which in turn are used to perform DDoS attacks, steal data, perpetuate ransomware, and more generally, provide attackers access to compromised devices and their connections. The rapid and accelerating proliferation of IoT devices, of insecure IoT, has created risk for consumers and to the basic functionality of the internet. This constant drumbeat of new attacks brings public attention and public pressure for governments to address these risks. With insecure IoT fueling cyber attacks, governments from around the world are taking notice. Here's just a few examples of US, Europe, and Canadian agencies that are wading into IoT security. Governments generally see industry-led efforts as the way forward, given the global nature of the challenge and the rapidly changing technology. However, to the extent future attacks cause widespread internet outages, governments will be forced to intervene and potentially impose prescriptive regulation that would likely harm innovation and potentially stifle the promised benefits of IoT and the vision we saw in the near future video. A combination of mitigation and prevention is necessary to more fully address the current emerging threats posed by insecure IoT. The cable industry recognizes that addressing these security risks is a shared responsibility across the entire internet ecosystem. To this end, ISPs, including cable operators, have invested substantially in developing and deploying measures to reduce the risks associated with insecure IoT, with particular focus on retaining the availability of broadband services. So what does an industry-led effort look like? We believe the Open Connectivity Foundation, OCF, is one of the most promising industry efforts to substantially increase IoT security. OCF's mission is to develop a secure interoperability specification. OCF has nearly 400 members from across the IoT space, from silicon to software to platforms to finished goods and to network operators. Beyond the specification, OCF will certify devices and intends to serve as a trusted brand for consumers. Cable Labs and Comcast hold board seats, and Cable Labs chairs the security work group of OCF. To lower the barriers to adoption, OCF also sponsors a Linux Foundation collaborative project called IoTivity, which provides an open source reference implementation for the specification. Each member who contributes to the specification, a requirement to the specification, must also contribute code to the open source reference implementation. This will hopefully help lower adoption, making the OCF specification available as code, not just as an 800-page document. Now let's discuss what we believe is intended for secure IoT and to enable the freedom and independence that's envisioned in Jim's world. These are not sort of new concepts. We've known many of these for years, but we must drive them into IoT. So let's walk through each of these quickly. The first problem is that everybody lies. Politicians lie, people lie on social media, and devices lie. In the world of IoT, this problem is most profound when devices lie about themselves or fail to identify themselves when talking to other devices. This creates a huge opening for hackers. Device identity is the foundational building block for IoT security. It is necessary for everything else to work, but not all device identifiers are equal. For a strong device identity, it must be unique, immutable, and attestable. However, today, IoT devices typically do not use identifiers that are both unique and immutable, and the device identifiers are almost never attestable. Let's look at an example of that. Just about a year ago, Johnson & Johnson issued a security warning regarding this insulin pump and remote. Basically, the remote could be spoofed and cause the insulin pump to inject too much insulin into the patient. This could have been simply solved using a strong identifier where each command, or the remote and the pump, verify that each command, who sends that command before it accepts it. So how do you get a unique, immutable, and attestable ID? We've known how to do that for decades. With the development of PKI and certificate management services, these days there are many providers of digital security certificates, and that can be used as strong identifiers. The one the cable industry uses is Curio, a subsidiary of Cable Labs, and they operate one of the largest PKIs in the world, with over 500 million security certificates issued to date for basically all devices that connect to the cable networks. So, that first time you got intimate with your partner, you were maybe the most vulnerable in your life. The first time you connect, you have to be extra careful. You want to know who you are connecting with. You want certain protections in place. When we onboard devices into a network, is exactly where we need to protect both parties, both the network and the device, from spoofing and interlopers during any sort of handshake or credential exchange. The use of secure digital certificates can enable a more straightforward and secure onboarding process for devices. The exchange of secure digital certificates between the new device and an IoT hub or other devices on the network allow the devices to determine the level of trust between devices and what information to be shared. Okay, on to the third issue. This is a good one. If you wear a Fitbit or other Bluetooth device, it's broadcasting itself all the time, so that anybody that can listen to the Bluetooth transmissions can track your location. Be careful what you share publicly. You never know who's listening. So that brings us to confidentiality. An IoT device should encrypt locally stored sensitive information, use standard well-established encryption techniques, and the device should protect sensitive information while in use in the device. For example, private keys. Second, an IoT device should use mutual endpoint authentication and application-level encryption for all communications that include sensitive information. Third, an IoT device should limit the information provided in response to requests by untrusted and anonymous devices. So let's talk about integrity for a minute and look at a few failures in the physical world to illustrate why we must design security in from the beginning. Not that secure. Not that secure. Whoop. Back up. What's going on to my pictures? Ah, there. That's what I was looking for. Not that terribly secure either. The data created and received by a device must be trustworthy and protected from unauthorized modification. This requires that device identity, execution environment, configuration, and communications are all secured using well-established methods. To further ensure device integrity, each device should be hardened to minimize the attack surface. Manufacturers should also employ non-repudiation methods for critical communications. Think real-time energy pricing on the grid, things like that. So this door over here on the left has a smart lock. How does that lock behave if the power goes out, if the broadband connectivity goes down, if the communications to the associated cloud service go down? What will happen? IoT providers have to plan for outages of different kinds and make sure devices behave appropriately when those outages occur. IoT devices should be designed to function in a predictable and expected manner if and when there is loss to broadband connectivity or to the cloud service. Moreover, devices should use restrictive rather than permissive default network traffic policies to limit communications and to guard against unintended as well as malicious DOS attacks. Okay, why am I showing you pictures of snazzy aftermarket upgrades on cars? Because consumers are notoriously bad at do-it-yourself improvements. So if you're making an IoT device, you should not expect consumers to manage the security of that device over its entire lifetime. This is especially applicable to connected devices with substantial lifetimes. Think connected refrigerator. If the manufacturer does not provide an automated mechanism for secure software updates, that refrigerator becomes obsolete with the discovery of the first significant vulnerability. IoT providers must make lifecycle management a central consideration in the design of every connected device. Specifically, IoT providers must, with limited exception, provide secure, automated software updates during the disclosed security support period. And by default, the software update mechanism should not require or rely on any consumer action. In addition, IoT providers must publicly disclose vulnerability remedies. To protect end users and third parties, IoT providers should consider limiting device functionality after the end of the support period and disclose any such limitations. Who in the room recognizes who this is? This is Donald Rumsfeld, former defense secretary. He is famous for saying, you have your known knowns, your known unknowns, and then you have your unknown unknowns. It is a taxonomy of contingency planning that will live on for generations. So this is the last big issue that needs to be addressed, making your security applications or your security upgradable. IoT providers should consider and design into their products the ability to have strong security controls throughout the entire intended and expected life of the device, which may be significant for connected, durable home appliances, such as refrigerators. Beyond the technical security goals, we have to consider the governance goals of a standards organization. Strong technical standards for IoT security are not sufficient alone. The standards development organization must have the listed attributes to ensure efficacy, credibility, and value in the marketplace. I'm sure you're generally familiar with these attributes. But in particular, I want to focus on conformity assessment. A technical standards value is only as good as the assurance it was faithfully and fully implemented by the manufacturer. For any associated certification mark to have meaning and ongoing conformity must be assured. This too can be achieved through implementation of secure digital certificates. When one device checks on another device's identity, it can also check on the certification status of that device. This can be automated. So in summary, IoT security is a growing problem. We know how to solve this problem. Let's work together through OCF or other industry initiatives to establish the necessary standards. Let's meet the 7 security goals, and let's ensure a mechanism for conformity assessment and ongoing compliance. Thank you. Resources?
So we have time for a couple of questions.
And here's my email. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Hi, I loved your presentation, and I really wanted to go yay. And I'm a geek. I have a house full of Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, and I'm sure you know what they are.
Absolutely.
So my question is, with these things, and as we continue to plug into, say, the matrix, and continue to become further enveloped in this very large grid, if you were to speak, that it's really kind of pushing into every aspect of our lives. How do we ensure that we may, when you go into something like this, there's an implicit understanding that those that control this stuff, or those that can assume control of this stuff, have an altruistic motive, right? So how do we ensure that plugging further into this matrix is liberty enhancing rather than liberty constraining over time? That's my question.
I think that is a huge societal question, as we move forward. And as some of the talks yesterday touched on, I think it is a matter of ensuring all stakeholders are brought together to discuss those implications as we're thinking through them. And it cannot just be sort of a single slice of society that's engaging in those decisions. I think it has to be a broad, open process. Any other questions?
Hi. Hi, right here.
No?
Hey, so, right, you had mentioned, we're hearing a lot about IoT. The other thing that we're hearing is we hear more of these collaborations where there are these standards that are being used to, kind of piggyback on his question, to form standards that people use. Do you guys see that happening? Do you see new devices, as going through the process, we're actually saying, let's use, this certain framework, or let's do this, as opposed to, or are we still in that stage where we're still trying to put together those frameworks? Because if it's too late, it's too late. And I think we're already seeing that happening with some of the older technologies.
I don't think it's too late. If you look at the forecasts, we're sort of still in the infancy of connected devices. By 2020, they're expecting to double, maybe 20 to 50 billion connected devices, depending on which forecast you look at. But you are starting to see greater emphasis on standards and the security of these devices. Many of those efforts are nascent at this point. The one I mentioned, OCF, is very much still in its formation phase and really putting its specification together and the process together. But I think with the drumbeat of sort of constant headlines, that is sort of forcing the issue, and also the attention from governments around the world on these issues. So I don't think it's too late, but I also think the time is now, and we really need to think hard about these issues.
All right, let's thank Mark again. Thank you for the lovely presentation.